Meanwhile, after over a year since it launched in March 2023, Dangote Refinery earlier today rolled out its first premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, from its 650,000 barrels per day facility. This is even as the chairman of the company, a billionaire businessman, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, declared that it is a celebration day for Nigerians. Now, he further posited that the quality of the product from the refinery matches that from anywhere from the world. According to Mr. Dangote, who spoke at the news conference earlier today, the quality of the products from his refinery will match with that of anywhere in the world, including the United States, adding that his standards will be maintained. The refinery owner said as soon as his company finalizes modalities with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the product will hit the market.
PMS can actually be in the market by today is what, Tuesday? By Thursday latest, our product can be in the market. I think there will not be any disruption because the president, not only that he brought the whole idea, he took it to the Federal Executive Council. It was approved, at the Federal Executive Council. And I think whoever wants to play with the instructions of the president, he will pay a big price. And also to thank Mr. President and his government for assisting us to make sure that we achieve this, dream. This is a very monumental, dream, for us that we've been able to achieve something like this, which Nigeria has not really achieved producing gasoline in the last 28 years. So I think it's good, at least during his administration, this has been, achieved. And also to thank him for making sure that he brought out this Naira transaction, of which will help to stabilize our currency, to bring growth and prosperity to our country.
Africa's richest man there, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, chairman of the Dangote Group. Well, Dr. Ayodele Oni is an energy lawyer and an analyst, partner at Bloomfield Law Practice. He joins me to talk more about this. Dr. Oni, good afternoon and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Dr. Oni, I think we need to congratulate ourselves that finally PMS is coming out of this 650,000 barrels capacity refinery, this facility. Let me ask how it comes to you as a major player in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, Nigeria can be a difficult place to be. It can be difficult being a Nigerian at times, but it's not all doom and gloom. I think this is very great news. There's no one who won't be excited. Anyone who means well for the country will be excited. At least it guarantees that we will have PMS available and queues should disappear. I mean, as long as our peculiar local issues don't rear their ugly heads again. But generally speaking, that's what we expect will be the case. So everyone should be as excited or nearly as excited as Mr. Dangote is.
Being excited is one thing on one side. The price is another thing. And that is what Nigerians are worried about. Do you think this would affect pricing in any way? As at yesterday, landing cost, please allow me to land. Landing cost from the PPMC and, of course, other regulators show that it's above 1,100 naira a litre.
Okay. I think that the prices are still going to be high, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the PIA, for example, when it even speaks to domestic supply for crude oil by lessees such as the NNPCL, it says that you will negotiate pricing commercially based on the international price of crude. Now, even if they sell in Naira, unless the government is giving subsidy, if they sell in Naira and you have crude at above $80, if you do your maths, there's no way it's going to be less than about $1, right? And if you convert $1 to Naira, that's about 1,623 thereabout. If you remove factors that typically for imports could be challenges, ship to ship, haulage and all of that, maybe you take out 5 to 20%. I'm not quite sure, but you still be speaking to about 1,000 naira at the minimum, in my view, unless, of course, government is giving subsidy. It doesn't guarantee that you'd have cheaper prices unless government gives some form of subsidy, but can only guarantee that you have sufficient supplies. That's my view, and that's where cherry news is. It's not in the pricing, in my view.
Well, I don't know if this is coincidental, but it's also at a time where the NNPC finally owned up to agree that there is a debt of about $6 billion US. That's no small money. And they are coming to say, well, we're having issues with bringing in products, and we are seeing Dangote rollout. How do we put this, balance this, looking at what the NNPC says and what is happening today?
Well, it's always been the case. If you look at it, and it goes beyond just one factor. You look at it from financing, from its forward sale arrangements and such similar arrangements where it borrows the money. And you also look at it from getting credit line, or a line where you can buy and pay later from refiners, from traders. You know, in those circumstances, of course, the debts may grow. So Dangote coming this time means that in terms of dollar payments, that should substantially reduce, right? And there have been arguments that 40% or more of our forex every year goes to petroleum products. So that should help. And also generally reduce NNPC's USD exposure. In my own view, doesn't mean they will still not have to spend a lot of money, unless, of course, there's an arrangement where the federal government steps in. Yes, so yeah, a coincidence, but a good one.
The Dangote, Alhaji Dangote himself says they are in talks with NNPCL and the federal government. So it seems like something might be done to address the under-recovery that we might see maybe at the end of the day if government is wanting to peg the price of PMS at a particular rate. But I want you to explain to us, does the PIA give us that opportunity to do that? Because at the end of the day, we still have that law that says NNPC remains a supplier of the last resort.
Yeah, okay, so supplier of last resort means when you have inadequate products in country, and then the NNPC supplier of last resort. Actually, the idea is to ensure that what the PIA does is to create market so that there are many buyers and many sellers that can drive down prices, that can lead to more competition. Now, the challenge is that crude is an international commodity. As long as it's an international commodity, pricing is going to be based on the international market price, because even those who produce in Nigeria, a lot of their operating expenditure is not in Naira. It's in USD. You want to get a drilling rig or a drill ship, you're talking about anywhere from $100,000 to maybe even $1.2 million a day. You know, maybe, I mean, good deal, $600,000, $850,000 a day for drilling, particularly when you speak to deep offshore. Now, if you're spending that sort of money in USD, it's difficult for anyone to then tell you to want to sell in Naira, unless, of course, there's an arrangement where government steps in. You know, people would argue in economics that there's no such thing as an absolute free market, you know, where government doesn't step in. It's all private sector driven. So I guess government is having conversations, and I think I did hear or read somewhere that Alhaji doesn't even know the price at the moment because they're having conversations around pricing and all of that. You know, so maybe government wants to do something around subsidy. Maybe government wants to take out some costs, typical cost, maybe taxes, monies that have been due the federal government. The government can maybe net it off, and then that can reduce prices. Otherwise, I don't think the prices will be cheap unless, one, there's subsidy, or government is doing something around what would have been its own take. Maybe it's reducing its own take substantially. Otherwise, it would be not of 800, 900 to 1,000 or more.
Dr. Oni, you know this word subsidy has become, so now I think it's now under recovery, exchange differentials. We have different names we could call that, that figure. You know what I'm talking about there, but that's just on a lighter note. Crude oil production availability is something that is very important here. And that's been the bone of contention too at a particular time where Alhaji Dangote says he wasn't getting enough supply of crude. That came up, right? And now we're ramping up production and all of this. What do you think we can do with regards to crude supply? Because that is what would sustain this 650,000 capacity refinery?
Okay. That's always been a challenge. You know, someone said something, and it's just a joke, that if someone explains Nigeria to you and you understand, they haven't explained well. You know, so at some point the challenge was we didn't have enough refining. Now that we seem to be moving towards having enough refining, we have challenges around crude. But it's not the explanation is not far-fetched. A few things. A number of transactions around divestments have not been approved. We're happy the NAOC Ajib Owando deal has been approved. There are a few others because once people want to sell an asset, they're not going to continue to pump money into that asset, right? So we need government to approve all of these transactions and give consent. Once consent is received, the new owners can begin to do more to exploit those assets. That's one thing. Secondly, some of what government has been doing, which is good, around working with locals and what the PIA does around host community trust arrangements, those government should continue to not only just have the law in place, but to implement them. As long as government does all of these, we can have more. And some of this would also reduce, particularly working with people like local indigenous people, it would reduce theft and damage to infrastructure. If you have infrastructure not damaged, pipelines not damaged, and government does then pumping more money into improving pipeline infrastructure, then you'd have more crude readily available for sale to the domestic players. And recall, there is a domestic crude supply obligation where everyone who produces crude has an obligation to reserve a particular quantity for domestic use. But of course, there are rules. One, you can only sell to refiners that are in operation. You have commercial negotiations in line with the international crude prices, and you may sell in Naira or USD, right? And that goes to your earlier question. So you can't have an arrangement where you sell in Naira or USD. It depends on both parties' ability to negotiate. So government should continue to enforce the crude supply obligation. There are challenges here and there because a number of, including the NNPCL, a number of lessees, crude producers have done forward sale arrangements to borrow money, which is only natural, right? And you also have reserve-based lending and a number of such arrangements where loans have been taken, and they rely on either receivables or crude of some sort. So I think government just needs to do all of those, approve those transactions, work on infrastructure, enforce crude supply obligations, and things should look up.
And that will build that confidence in the market. Dr. Oni, you know when we're talking oil and gas, we could go on and on. Our time is running out, and we should wrap this up now and move to my next discussion. But before I let you go, will this stop importation of petroleum products outrightly? Energy security is something that we should talk about. Some would say, can we put all our hopes or put all our eggs in one basket, like some would say? But what do you make of this affecting our importing of petroleum products?
Well, if one takes a look at recent history and what we've seen Alhaji Dangote do, cement, all those places where he's played, you find out that there's barely any importation. It's largely you'd largely have it available. Now, whether the price is low is a different conversation, right? But availability, I think we will have availability. And recall that it's not only the Dangote refinery, a few others coming on stream. And hopefully, the NNPC does keep its word someday, and its own refineries also come on stream. We understand that they're looking at O&M contracts with private companies to come and manage those refineries when they come on stream. So I think that we will make progress. I think that this should ultimately stop importation. And that's the idea also. Recall, if you look at the PIA, the idea is to ultimately stop importation and support backward integration, reduce, completely have people not import petroleum products, but rely on Nigerian refiners to provide what we need locally. I think that we will get there. We will get there soon.
Dr. Oni, we expect Port Harcourt refinery to come on stream. I'm aware that $1.5 billion US gotten from AFDB was spent on that refinery for rehabilitation, not the general the turnaround that used to happen before now. And we're promised that those will come on stream. That's on one side. The NNPC also says Kaduna would follow. With Dangote coming on stream, do you think that all of this will not just become stories that we won't hear anything about this anymore?
Well, I wouldn't know, but I expect that there's some seriousness by this government around these refineries, and I believe that I believe they will come on stream. Maybe not every single one of them, but I believe a number of those will come on stream before the end of the term of this government, because reforms come with their challenges, and this government does have I think quite a number of challenges that it needs to have things with which it will campaign, and I believe stuff like electricity, availability of petroleum products will be its campaign basis for its campaign, because otherwise then they struggle if we don't have some of this in place. So I think even for political reasons, some of this will come on stream, in my own view, even if it's for the next election.
Or you think that the private guys will be able to do this better? Because even the NNPC agreed that they need private guys to come on stream with them.
Absolutely. That's why the O&M, that's why they are trying to get private companies to come and run those refineries. They will own, but I think private sector players will run the refineries. I think, see, refining thrives on efficiency. Absolute efficiency. If you are not efficient, you have no business doing refining, because the margins are small, and you need to be efficient to be able to be profitable. Otherwise, it won't be profitable.
Dr. Ayodele Oni, I must thank you so much. Interesting conversation. Energy lawyer, analyst. He's a partner at Bloomfield Law Practice. Thank you. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for having me. Bye.